Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to our session. So it has just gone 12 o'clock, and I'm so excited to take us today through some great little things that you can do on your iPhone and iPad using the Siri Shortcuts app. So welcome. My name is Marius. We should be just about the hour, so nice to have you on board. Before we get going, as always, one or two things to mention, which is we'd like to hear from you. So in the chat, if you can let me know where you're joining from, what devices you're using today, that would be great. And also, by the way, there is a Q&A option. So any particular questions, please be sure to drop them in the Q&A, and we'll try and get to all your questions throughout the session. So I see a lot of people already jumping in on the chat, and yeah, nice to have people from all over South Africa. So hello, everybody. Nice to see you here. And I see also there's a couple of familiar names and faces. So nice to have you here with us. By the way, two more things to mention, which is please do share. So you can use the hashtag iStoreMeets and share more around today's workshop about what you've learned, maybe some great tips and tricks, and you can post that on Instagram and Facebook. And by doing so, stand a chance to win some great prizes from iStore. So definitely share. And finally, if anyone is interested to become a host of their own on iStore Meets, if you've got something great to share with all of us, then please reach out to our team using the email address on the screen. So, okay, I see a lot of people still jumping in with where they're from. And we have a lot of people in our session today. So excited, because I think this is a great topic. And I hope that we can make some progress to make it a little bit more efficient, kind of get some automations happening there on your iPhones and your iPads. It's a bit of a little known app, I think, but it's included with all of our devices. So definitely something to, I think, get to know more. With that being said, I think let me stop sharing my presentation there for a second and jump into our session, which is going to be on an iPad. By the way, I'll probably be doing most of the things we'll see today on an iPad, but just be aware that it works both on iPhone and iPad. It's just a little bit easier for us to show it to you on an iPad. So, and finally, maybe just to kind of set you up, because Siri Shortcuts, it could be quite intimidating, I think. So we're going to start with some very basics, go through, I think, a lot of things that hopefully everyone will be able to do. And also towards the end of the session, run through a little shortcut that we built from start to finish. So you can also kind of get to play with some of the advanced functions. So let's then jump in. I'm going to start sharing my iPad screen, which is what we got. By the way, let me know in the chat also, are you guys using iPhone or iPad today? So what is the device that most of you will be following along on? I hope you have an iPad maybe also handy, because it is easier, I think, just to have that larger screen space to work with it. But nevertheless, it does work on all of those. So with that being said, let's get going. So I see some of you are on a Mac. So if you're on a Mac, Kalpana, I see you are using a Mac. Good news is that Siri Shortcuts is coming to Mac in a future update. So hopefully all the things we're doing today you'll also be able to do on your Mac. But for now, it is based on iOS. So let's get started. Here is my iPad. I've got all my apps here already. So the app we're looking for today is called Siri Shortcuts. If you're not finding it, because maybe you've never opened it before, then you really just have to search for it. So swipe down and just type in Shortcuts. You can see mine is there already. So I'm just going to simply open the app called Shortcuts. You might even have deleted that app. So I don't know if any of you have deleted this app because you just never used it. So in that case, you can find it on the App Store, and it is also a free download. So nothing to worry about there. Alrighty, so here is our Siri Shortcuts app. And let me quickly tell you just what you see on the screen before we jump into actually using some of these shortcuts. So we've got a little gallery section on the left-hand side. We've got some folders. You can create and organize your shortcuts, because you can end up with literally hundreds of shortcuts if you wanted to. So it's probably a good idea, if you're going to be doing this, to start organizing from the start. Make folders maybe for different types of shortcuts. And that's just a nice way to organize yourself. But essentially, we can go and look at the gallery. We'll look in more details about the gallery in a second. You can see these are kind of some of the pre-made ones that you can choose. And I must say, there's some really great ones, and we'll explore some of those. There is something called automation, which also we'll explore a little bit later. And these really are little triggers that happen based on conditions. And you can have shortcuts run based on little things like time of day, maybe alarm going off or whatever. So that's that. You can see right at the bottom, you can make a new folder. So let's make a new folder and just call it I don't know, iStore meets today for why not? And let's change maybe our little icon here to something that makes more sense and add that little folder. So we'll use that a little bit later to add our shortcuts. All right, so Gerard's saying you're on iMac, but you've got your iPad and iPhone next to you, so ready for action. That's good news. Let's jump in, and we're going to start with the basics, some of the pre-made ones that you can potentially find on the gallery side. So go and explore this a little bit. You'll see there's nice categories up top that you can go and see. You know, works great with Siri. And you can go and play with these a little bit. And I'll show you some of my favorites because there's a lot. You'll see literally there is things for almost anything. You'll see there's options here for you to go and choose from. It's also a good place to learn, by the way. So if you see how these shortcuts have been put together, because essentially all the steps are right there within those shortcuts, you can kind of see how they do it and also learn maybe from how some of these have been made. So Anne is asking, is Siri Shortcuts already on the iPad? Yes, it should be. Depending on, I guess, the version that you're on currently. But from a few versions ago, Apple started making sure that this is part of the default apps. If it's not there, then you can just head over to the App Store and find Siri Shortcuts. It should be a free download for you there, and I hope you can try it out and let us know. So I've got a few favorites, like I said, in the gallery, which I want to share with you today. So let me show you. I'm going to show you the first one, and it's got to do with photography. If you know me, you know I like photography. So there's a cool little shortcut which I found the other day. It's called Where Was This Taken? So I'm simply going to go into the gallery, do a search, and you can see there's an option there that says, where was this taken? This is a shortcut that's pre-made. So I can simply tap on it, and it's going to allow me essentially to install it. You can see it gives me a couple of options in terms of what it does. I can go actually and look at all the actions if you want to see what it does. Maybe you're curious, right? You can go and look it out as well, or check it out. And then if you just want to add it, essentially you tap on where it says add shortcut, and that's it. So essentially, if I go into my shortcuts now, you can see there's another one added, which is where was this taken? And let me show you how this works. So I'm going to go out of my shortcuts app, and once you've installed that one, I go into literally my photos album or my app, and I can find any photo in here that I maybe want to know where this was taken. So I know there's a photo here that was taken, I think at the Botanical Gardens, but I actually, let's say I want to go back to that same spot, and I can't exactly remember the directions and the roads, right? So what I can do is I can go to a photo that is in a location like that. I tap on the share sheet, which is on the top, and all the way to the bottom, you can see it's now added something which is where was this taken? So that's one way of accessing your shortcuts. I tap on that essentially, and it'll take me right to the map where that was taken, even to the exact location from a GPS point of view. So pretty handy, right? If you ever maybe got a great photo and you want to go back to that same place. Again, this is a nice one to add. So let's go back to our shortcuts, and I want to show you a couple more that I really like. There's another one which is quite handy if you're meeting someone, right? So I'm going to just type in meet, or go to the gallery rather, and type in meet. And you can see there's a shortcut that pops up that says meet halfway. How handy is this? So if I install this shortcut, and you can see there's all the actions, I'm going to add shortcut. When I run the shortcut, it's going to allow me to specify, let's say my friend is at, where I'm coming from, and it's going to search for, let's say, restaurants halfway to that location. So let's actually run it. Another way, by the way, that you can run a shortcut is either you can run it directly from the Shortcuts app. So if I just tap on it there, it'll run. But I can do this a few other ways as well. So what I can do, and this is probably one of my favorite ways, is if you go on your home screen, you just tap and hold to start editing your home screen, and then you can add a widget for shortcuts. So check it out. I go to the very top left-hand corner, tap on the plus button. Here's all the built-in widgets, but there's one for shortcuts, and you can then say, do you want to have maybe like a small one, or maybe you want to have a few, or maybe you want all of them, as many as you can show, and that's probably a good one to go with, right? So let me add that widget. You can see it pops onto my home screen, which means I've got quick access to this whenever I want to run a shortcut like that. So in this case, Let's quickly tap on meet halfway and see what happens. It says, well, where do you want to go? A restaurant, maybe a attraction or something. So let's go to a restaurant and say done. It's going to ask, where is your friend's current location? So let's say they are in, I don't know, Santon City. Maybe that's where they are at. Tap on done. It's going to then essentially work out where you are, where your friend is at, and find things halfway. So let's see, if I'm meeting someone and they're coming all the way from Santon, it might take a little while to kind of do that, but it's going to give me some options in terms of restaurants and things that I can go and visit. It seems like it is taking a little bit of time to run this one because I guess it is doing all kinds of things in the background, but quite a cool one to go and check out. So try this out next time you're trying to meet a friend halfway and see what some of the results are. So that one there is called Meet Halfway. My third favorite one is actually got to do with an app we all use all the time. I think we all use it. So let me know, how many of you use Waze often, right? Is anyone here a big Waze user when you're traveling from, I don't know, city to city, place to place, or even to your work? Maybe Waze is the app that you go to, right? So here's what happens with me. When I'm in my car, ready to drive to work, I usually forget to start my Waze app. And then halfway down the street, I'm trying to kind of take my phone, try and find the Waze app, trying to do all these things at the same time. So you can actually get your phone to do the hard work for you. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to quickly switch over to my iPhone here. So let's just change over to my iPhone. There we go. And let's see, that's what you do. And especially in my case, also what happens is, you know, I've got Discovery Drive, so I'm trying not to use my phone as I'm driving. So this is going to be important. So I'm going to go on my iPhone this time, find the Siri Shortcuts app, and let's actually go back to the gallery and look at maybe some of the things here. So as I go in the gallery, you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But if I click on Show All, you can see there's actually Ways, because this is installed on this iPhone. So as you have different apps installed on your iPhone, some of them will have Siri shortcuts kind of available from the developer. So in this case, Waze added some shortcuts, which is, let's say, drive to work, right? So I simply tap on that guy and it's going to say, well, add this to Siri. When you say drive to work, it's going to allow my Waze app to then essentially launch and get going. So I click on add to Siri. I see someone is saying CarPlay is your friend. Yes, I wish, right? So here's the thing. Now that I've added that to my Siri shortcuts. So let's gonna quickly have a look there. If I go back into my shortcuts, you can see there's a new one there that says drive to work. And essentially what you need to do is invoke Siri, drive to work. And you can see Waze opens up, and it's going to start essentially taking you from where you're at, in my case, a little bit far away from work. And then there we go. It's going to take me about an hour to get to work today. Luckily, I'm not taking that journey, right? So pretty cool how you can then also use Siri to activate these shortcuts. So you make them within the Shortcuts app, and whatever you call them, that is also the name that you can use to trigger them using Siri. So I see someone saying, can't find the drive to work anywhere in the gallery. Definitely have Waze installed. Justin, just make sure you're using it on an iPhone. I think there's a few things that I think it depends on the model. So if you're on an iPhone, it should be there. Otherwise, I guess we can check out later, but I've actually installed Waze on this demo phone just this morning and it came up. Ah, you found it. Okay, perfect. Good news. All right, so those are a couple of things then we can do from the gallery, right? So these are little pre-made shortcuts and they are made really available by Apple. And also you don't have to worry about them. They've been checked, they're safe, they're secure, and you can run these on your device and trigger them for different things. But talking about triggering these shortcuts, before we actually build our own shortcuts in a little while, let's quickly see at all the ways you can actually trigger them, because I think we've seen maybe like 2 ways already. Let's quickly switch back to my iPad. And I just make sure we know all the ways that you can actually trigger a shortcut once you've got one that you want to work. So I think as we've seen, let me just stop that guy because obviously drive to work or the meet halfway didn't quite do its thing. If I go into the Siri Shortcuts app, you just press on it there. So that's one way, right? So we've also seen the little widget, which is very handy. Whatever you save, you can have available for you right there. And this, by the way, same on iPhone as well. That's 2 ways. You can also do something else. If I actually want this to be an app icon, you can also do that. So for instance, let's go into my shortcuts. and maybe this drive to work one here, or maybe even whatever. Let's go with open camera, a very simple one. I'm simply going to tap and hold on it, and you can see I get some options. So one of them says details. So here there's a few things you can choose. And what I want to show you here is you can say add to home screen. So there is, and you can then go ahead and change what it looks like. So for instance, you can even take a little picture and put that. So your app icon will look essentially like anything you want it to be. So you can go and change that photo, change the name if you wanted to, but essentially once you've done with all of that, you just say add, and you can see it says added to home screen. So what this will do is literally drop a little app icon on your desktop. So you can see there we go on the side, and this one will open up your camera. So that was another way. I think we've seen already Siri. So you can actually say the word to Siri and she will open, or he will open up the shortcut for you. And there is one more way, which I think is really exciting. And this is, again, is on the iPhone, where you can use something called back tap to also launch your shortcuts. I think I switched back to my iPad a little bit too quickly. Let's go back to my iPhone for a second, and I'll show you where to find this. So back on my iPhone, there we go. I can then go into my settings app, and really just want to search for it. It's probably the easiest way to find it. You go and search for something called back tap, and there we go. And if I go all the way to the bottom, you can see there's an option called back tap, and this allows me to do little things by tapping on the back of my iPhone. So double tap will do control center, triple tap will do notification center, but I can change that not to one of the built-in things. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, this is pretty cool, right? You can then have those little things. So I can even do drive to work as a back tap. So let's just do maybe a simple one. Let's do open the camera just to show you how this works. Open the camera. And if I go out of this, all right. And now because I've set that up as a triple tap on the back. So if I do a tap, 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 you can see, there we go, camera opens, and you can see my messy room, which I didn't want you to see, but that is how that works. And essentially you can then run any shortcut just by tapping on the back. So someone's saying this is only available on newer iPhones. Yes, correct. So not exactly sure from which model, but a few generations ago, this is something that came around. So you might have to have a new iPhone to do this. All right, so let's then move on to something a little bit more advanced, right? So we looked at some of the basics, some of those built-in shortcuts, and they're pretty cool, but I think we can do more, right? And I think that's why you're here for. So let's jump back into my iPad and show you some of those things that we can do if we, I think, take it up, let's say, a notch. So here we go. I see someone is just confirming there for us. Nice one. Any iPhone with a glass back is supported with back tap. So thanks for clarifying that one. All right. So what I wanted to show you is making a shortcut from start to finish. So we're going to create a shortcut from start to finish. We'll look at all the things, including things like variables and conditions and all these things to make a shortcut work. And hopefully, just by seeing this, you can kind of see the power of it. And also maybe you're going to tinker a little bit and create your own shortcuts. If nothing else, hopefully the shortcut we create here today together is something you can use on your day-to-day life as well. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to cancel that because we're going to make a new one. And this is what, oh, Rob is saying you just found it on your iPhone 8. All right, there we go. Best find of the day. Okay, so what we're going to create is a shortcut that allows you to take a photo of a receipt, and let's say you are going shopping, and then to upload that automatically to a cloud storage, and also to rename the folder that it goes to, and also put the date in there. So if ever you want to go and find a receipt later on, you know exactly where to go. You go to your cloud storage, you find the name of the store, and then you find the date, and that hopefully is something you can use already. That's something I found really interesting and really helpful on my end, so I thought I'd share how I create that with you today. So let's see how we do this. I'm going to make a new shortcut. So I'm going to tap on the plus button on the kind of the middle of the screen. And it's really giving us a blank canvas, right? You can see there's all kinds of things on the side here, and we'll explore some of these things in a little bit more detail. But yeah, it's really kind of drag and drop easiness. So for instance, I can go into this category called apps, and you can see it shows me all the apps that support shortcuts on my iPad. And if I go into any one of these, for instance, even to Dropbox, you can see it shows me all the little triggers that, for instance, that app has access to from a shortcuts point of view. So you can kind of do it this way, go and find the app that you're interested in, and then go and find some shortcuts to work with it. You can see there's scripting things. And for anyone that's done any coding in your life, maybe even at school many years ago, you remember doing these things, right? So we'll talk about things like if statements, conditional things to get your shortcut to work the way you want it. We'll actually include one in our little example as well. So there's things with regards to documents, right? You can save a document, extract a document, make a PDF, for instance. There's media things. You want to play songs, record songs, photos, take a photo, take a video. So there's a lot, right? So let's see how we can use this for our example. So we are going to start with, I think, taking a photo, right? Let's say you want to take a photo of that receipt. So we're going to take a photo. So that's, I think, the first place to start. So all I'm going to do, and you can go in the menus and try and find it there, right? But obviously, if you use the search options, it'll be a little bit easier. So I'm going to go in here and just take in, let's say, take, and you can see options come up. And there's one there that says take photo. That's the one we want, right? So I just tap on it and it's going to start building on the left-hand side. And that's our first action. It's going to take a photo with the back camera, and you can obviously change that around to be the front camera or the back camera as well. That's kind of, I guess, a good start, but obviously from there, we want to do more of this. So on a basic level, let's just kind of get this right. We want to then save this, right? So I'm going to tap on, or can I search for save and use the option there. And it's probably good to drag it in because otherwise it always goes to the bottom. But you can either tap on it, it'll go to the bottom, or you can drag it exactly where you want. So let's do this, right? We're going to take a photo and then it's going to save the photo somewhere. So where's it going to save it? In iCloud. You can change this to iCloud or Dropbox. By the way, if you're doing Dropbox, then the first time you do this, it will have to authenticate to make sure, obviously, that you have access to that folder in Dropbox. But that just happens once, and then you should be good to go. Secondly, it's going to ask us, where do you want to save it? So you can actually get it to ask you every time. But maybe that's also a bit of a mission, right? You don't want to type all those things in all the time. We want to have an automation that does all these things for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new path or directory within Dropbox, and let's just call this receipts, right? So what's going to happen right now, if I run the shortcut, it's going to take a photo and then upload it to Dropbox in a little path called receipts. Let's try this out, and we're going to build on this going forward. So I press play on the top right-hand corner. You can see, there we go. My camera opens up. I've got a random pot plant here in front of me. But let's imagine that was the receipt we wanted to save. I take the photo. I say use photo, and you can see it runs, it uploads. It might take a second depending on your internet speed, but essentially, there we go, right? So it's uploaded to Dropbox. Let's quickly go check it out. So I go out of this. I go and search for Dropbox, and you can see nothing there yet, but let's just refresh that for a second. There we go, new folder called receipts. And inside we've got our first photo, right? So this is a start, but I think we can do better. I think we can make something that's a little bit more useful, because if you end up with, I think, hundreds of receipts in one folder, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to find that receipt anyway, right? So it's not making your life easier. So let's see what we can do to kind of make this better. I'm going to go back to my Shortcuts app, and we're going to do a couple of things. Let's say we actually want to get user input. We want, maybe at the stage when you take the photo, to maybe even be able to type in the name of the store. Let's say it's Spar, or it's Macro, or it's Pick and Pay, whatever it is, because you want to use that then to also label your file. So let's do this, right? So we've taken the photo, we've saved it, but now we're going to ask for input. So again, I go to my little search box. I just type in ask. And by the way, if you type in ask, you'll see there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes up that you can ask for. So we just want to ask for input. And I'm going to drag that to between where the photo is taken and where it saves it to Dropbox. Okay, so hope everyone is still following, right? The little prompt there is going to be a text-based, right? So you can see that says text, because obviously you can change this to be image-based or text-based or number-based, etc. And what is the prompt? So we just put in, let's say, store name, right? So we're going to get a store name, and so at this stage, we've got two things. We've got a photo and we've got a store name. So let me then introduce you to the next important thing to be aware of, which is called variables. So I'm sure many of you would have, if you ever done any programming, you would probably know of the term variables, but it's quite useful in terms of storing bits of information, because as you can see, we are going to have multiple things here that we want to keep track of. So what photo do we want to save? Where we want to save it? What is the name of the store? Right. So let's then introduce you to variables and add a couple to make our lives easier. So let me show you. I'm going to go in and really just search for variable, and we're going to set a variable. So let me drag that in, and I'm going to add it to under the camera. And actually, we're going to do two. We're going to do one for both the camera for the photo and also for the store name. So I'm going to have two variables. Someone is saying, a little bit slower, please. iPhone is different. Yes, definitely, Andre. I will try and go slowly and also give you some time to catch up so you can definitely see how these things work and get it to work for you. And just saying is this is really complicated for me. So you're going to jump off here. No problem. So I hope there's maybe some of those gallery ones that you can use, Angela, and maybe see how they work. But no problem. It was nice to have you for a little bit. Right. So, so as you can see, our shortcut is about taking a photo, and we got a variable for that. So let's rename that variable to something that makes more sense, right? So this is going to be, let's call it just my photo, right? So it's going to set a variable called my photo. It's like a container, right? And it's going to contain that photo. So that's the first thing we do. And then also we got a second variable, which is going to be the store name. So you can see we're going to do that just below it. So let's call that my store. So we've got two variables. One contains the photo, one contains the store name. So how do we use that then in terms of the rest of what we're doing? So if I go down to documents, this is where we save that photo. And I can just press and hold on that photo option. You can see, okay, well, what do I want to save? And this is where I can choose the variable. So I want to save the photo, right? So that's what I want to save. And if I go a little bit down further, maybe we want to do in the path where we're actually going to save our photo. Let's actually put the store name in there. So it's going to make a folder for the store name. And that's how we're going to organize all our receipts. So we're going to say my store, right? And that's going to put in whatever Spar or Pick and Pay. And let's then maybe add one more thing, which is we're going to add the name of the file. So I think also you'll agree that looking at just file names in general, it's going to be a little bit confusing. So maybe if you sort it by date or save it by date, that's going to make it easier for you to also find those things later on. So the final thing I'm going to do at this stage is going to go, let's add current date to the path. And you can see it's going to have medium and time format as well. And that's all, right? So what we've done is we've allowed Shortcuts to take a photo. We've saved a variable with that photo. We've then also asked for store name. We've saved that as a variable as well. And then the final bit, which is the document save, is going to allow us to now save that photo into a folder that contains the store name. So I hope you're following along, because I know there's maybe some complicated stuff here, but let's see how this works, right? So let me run it like this, and let's quickly see how this is different from what we had earlier. So I'm going to press on the play button. So let's see, press play. It's going to take the photo again, right? So we've got the pot plant, and I'm going to say, yes, we're going to use that photo. Now it's going to say, well, what is the store name? Because we asked it to ask us the store name, right? So let's put in, I don't know, let's say we bought this little plant at Spar. Click on done. It's going to run through the rest of the script. And essentially, it's going to now upload that to a little folder. Okay, so let's see if that works. I'm going to go back out of Shortcuts and jump into Dropbox. And let's go out and maybe just get that to refresh. So there we go. You can see it made a folder called Spar. And inside of that, you can see it's actually got the date of the receipt. So I think this is quite handy, right? So you are going to different shops, you're taking, buying maybe different things, and some of the receipts you want to keep for warranty or for record keeping. So as you then take the photo, all you have to do is tell Siri essentially what the store is that you bought it from, and it'll put in the date and save it for you so you can go and retrieve it later on. All right, so I see Andre is asking about the phone version. I think what I can do is I can jump onto the phone version a little bit later and maybe continue to show you how it looks on the iPhone version. All the actions are kind of there, right? So whatever you're seeing on my screen is all available on the iPhone. They're exactly the same in terms of functionality. The only difference is on the iPhone, being a smaller screen, you probably have to click on a button or a menu or something to access everything we're seeing at the moment. All right, so that's kind of the start, but I think let's do one more thing just to make our little shortcut even more useful. And by the way, I will also share this shortcut with you afterwards. So you can actually run this shortcut on your iPhones and your iPads. So if you don't quite get it right in terms of what we're doing here today, don't worry. We'll share the shortcut to everyone on the session, and you can install it on your devices, and it'll essentially will do exactly the same as you're seeing happening here. Right. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to make one change to our shortcut, which is to just bring in some logic. Because if you think about it, our little shortcut here, which is called my shortcut at the moment, it's going to take a photo whenever we press the button. But what if you already have a receipt in your camera roll that you don't want to take another photo, you just want to use the one that is there already, right? So what we can do is we can quickly add in some logic just to allow the shortcut to see if there's already something, then use that. If there's not something already, then yeah, let's take a photo. So let's see how we do that. And that'll be the final thing we do to kind of get our script to work in the way I think we want it to work. So how do we do that? Well, firstly, we are going to allow our shortcut to run from a share sheet, which means it's going to trigger from the Photos app or maybe from a PDF app if you want. So we want it to be available from that share sheet, just like we saw earlier with the getting the directions to a photo. It was available down there. So you need to actually enable it to do that. How do we do that? It is actually quite simple. You go to the top, those little three dots, and you just really, where it says in the middle, show in share sheet, you need to turn it on. So I turn that on. And it says, okay, well, what types of files do you want to accept? So we're going to not take everything. I think we only want really one thing, which is images. So I'm going to deselect everything and maybe just leave images selected as an option. So this is the only thing that we are going to accept. So go back to details, click on done. All right, so that was the first step, right? To make our shortcut available in the share sheet, we had to turn on the option to just be there in the first place, right? So now we've done that. There's really just one more thing to do, which is to add a condition or an if statement. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump into scripting, and you can see there's an option that says if. So we're going to test something really. So I'm going to drag that guy out and put it right on the top. And my condition is going to be quite easy. So if the shortcut input, so whatever I'm already on, so if it's a photo, if that shortcut input then is an image and it kind of sees that, I can then set a condition, which is either it has a value or it doesn't have a value, right? So either there is a photo that I've already kind of started to use or there's nothing. So if there is a photo, right? So if it has a value, what I need to do is actually just take that photo and not open the camera again. So how do we do this? I just need to add one more variable, which is going to be right there, drag in my variable. And it's going to be, if there is a photo, then here we go. My photo is really going to be whatever that is. Okay, so it's going to take the photo then essentially from my Photos app. If there isn't a value, which means I'm not getting any input from anything, all I need to do is then run my other bit, which is open the camera and then set that variable to whatever I capture with the camera. So I hope that makes sense, right? So what we're doing is we're running an if statement, which is testing for something. So if there is a value, in other words, I'm in the Photos app and there's already a photo that I'm busy with, it's not going to take another photo. It's just going to use that photo, which is why we have that variable there, which says set variable my photo to shortcut input. If there isn't a photo already, which means I'm just running it as a new, I guess, action, then it's going to open the camera and set the variable again to the same variable to a photo. And then the rest of my script will continue as we had it before. So let's quickly see how this works in terms of what we wanted to do. So I'm going to quickly click on my shortcuts and save the shortcut, right? And let's call it something like, I don't know, saving my receipts. There we go. And we can change the icon there if you wanted to find something interesting, like a little document or something. I don't know, like just put in something for a barcode for now. But you can change this to anything you want. And if I now say done, we've kind of saved it. So let's see how this works in action. So I'm going to go out of Siri Shortcuts, right? Let's go to my home screen. And you can see there it is on the top. So if I run it from here, it's going to take a photo, right? So click on that action, launch the camera. I take a photo of my receipt, use the photo, and let's call this one, maybe this is when we went to macro, right? And we're going to save that. And you can see that's going to run for a second. It's going to upload it to Dropbox, and I'll have a copy of that receipt essentially for me to use later on. And that's great. But what if I trigger this from the Photos app? So go into the Photos app, and let's actually go out of there. You can see I've actually got a receipt down here, which I've randomly found on the internet, right? So, but let's say this is the receipt I want to save. So if I go to the share sheet now, and I just scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see, there we go. There's something called saving my receipts. So in this case, we don't want a photo to be taken. We just want to use that one. And hopefully this works. Let's go with saving my receipts. It's going to ask you for the store name again. Let's say this one was at Pick n Pay, right? And say done. And it's going to, there we go, upload your receipt, the rest of the process. And essentially, yeah, we are done with our little shortcut. So let's quickly see the results to make sure this worked as we expected. Go back to Dropbox. And quickly go and just refresh that for a second. And we'll see there's two folders, right? One from Pick n Pay, which is this last one we just uploaded. And that was the receipt from our library. And there's another one from Macro, which is the one that came in as a photo. So I think not to make it overly complicated, maybe that's where we'll kind of just leave that. So I hope that makes sense, right? So someone says, how does screen lock affect shortcut automation? Let's talk about automation next. So actually that's where we're going to move on to next in terms of automation. So some shortcuts can run in the background, and let's talk about exactly that. Let's see if there's any other questions here that I can quickly answer. Andre is saying, please can we read a video of the session? Yes, for sure. So we are recording it, and hopefully we'll have it on our YouTube channel. And if you want to go check it out, then you are more than welcome. Because I know, especially if this is the first time you're seeing things like this, you know, there's possibly a lot to take in. So if you want to just take your time to do that, I fully understand. So what we're going to move in next is a final bit, which is how to also do automations. Let's see. Right. So Justin actually giving us some good feedback there, saying a nice practical tip. Yeah. And that's why I thought I'd share it with you. So if you wanted to also do the same, and if you looked at my car before I started using this, I don't know if anyone is the same, but you probably have receipts on the cubbyhole. You've got receipts in the middle. You've got receipts under the seats, and you just got receipts everywhere in your wallet. So I thought maybe there's a better way to do this, right? Anyway, so I hope that helps. By the way, we'll also share the shortcuts. So if someone wants to just run this one, you don't have to build it yourself. You can just run the one that we made, right? So let me go out of this and quickly show you some automations, because we spoke about this is the other thing you can do with Siri Shortcuts is make little automations. Check it out. If I go into where it says automation, you can see there's kind of two things here. One is create a personal automation, and one is to set up a home hub. So the home hub is like a smart home. This is where you have all kinds of accessories that can turn on and off and this kind of thing. So that's not what we're doing here today. We just want to make a personal automation. So let's see. And I'm going to make a very simple one. I'm going to keep it nice and simple. Hopefully that you guys can use these ones as well. And maybe also start using them from tomorrow when your alarm goes off. Because that's the first one I want to show you is what about if your alarm goes off in the morning? I mean, how many of you then, I don't know, hit the snooze button and you kind of snooze, and it kind of there's a process where it happens. You just keep on snoozing it, you know, but we can maybe make that little process a bit more interesting. What about if your alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button? As soon as you do that, maybe some music starts playing, right? Wouldn't that be nice if you can have some music to help you in that waking up process? Well, you can with Siri Shortcuts. Let me show you. I am going to go in and tap on a new animation, tap on alarm, right? So it says, well, what do you want to do when your alarm stopped, or maybe when you snooze it? So let's do the snooze option. So when you snooze your alarm, essentially any alarm, or you can choose maybe a specific one as well, but let's say any alarm. Let's go to next. Essentially, what do you want to happen at this point? So let's add an action. And again, you can then see those same things pop up. You can literally build something quite complex, but we just want to have something quite simple, which is if you go to media and we just scroll down all the way to the music section, right? There we go. We just want to play some music, right? So when the alarm snoozes, we're going to play some music. You tap on where it says music. And if you have an Apple Music subscription, then you can actually access it right from here. So I go to listen now. Let's find a song quickly here, right? So there's Apple Music. Let's go and maybe find some of these songs. Today at Apple is quite a nice playlist. Let's go with, I don't know, butterflies, right? So I've added that guy. and I say next. And I say one more thing to add here to keep in mind. At the bottom, it says ask before running. I think we want to turn that off because we don't want to get interrupted to have to play the song. We just want it to happen automatically, right? So don't ask. And done. And that's it, right? We've got an automation set. So every time we snooze our alarm, essentially your Apple Music will start playing automatically in the background. So try it out. That's quite an easy one to do. And see maybe if your morning routine has got a bit more vibe to it from tomorrow, right? So nice. Let me show you one more, and then I think we'll maybe just spend some time on questions and answers as well. But let me show you one more. So this is also one that I like. So in the plus button, I'm going to add another automation. And this time, create personal automation again. So here, one I want to do is when your device gets like to a certain percentage, let's say to 5% battery life, and maybe you are not plugging it in. Because sometimes if you're like me, you see those messages, but you can ignore it and then it's too late, your phone dies, right? So what I want to do is actually want to create an automation that does a few things in the background to help me with that. So I'm going to say, okay, so my new automation is this. When my battery level, let's say, dips below 5%, right? So let's say it gets quite low. So 5% falls below 5%. Next, right? What do you want to do? I think there's a few things we can do, right? So maybe we can add an action. We can search for something like brightness, right? So let's reduce the brightness of our displays at this point, because the screen is probably the one thing that eats the most battery, right? So let's go and reduce that quite a bit. Let's say to like 5%. So it's going to be quite dim. Okay. We can add another action. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe also you want to turn on airplane mode, right? So turn on airplane mode, reduce the brightness. I don't know, you can probably think of a few other things you want to do at this stage. Maybe you want to do an alert that pops up, right? So you can even do that. So let's type in, let's say, alert, right? So show an alert, which is maybe something like, please plug into power, right? But I'm not going to do that one for now. Let's just go with those two. Say next. We want this to run automatically as well, and say done. And essentially, I've got two automations that's going to happen in the background. So when I snooze my alarm, it's going to start playing music. And also when the battery falls to quite a low percentage, it's going to automatically dim the screen, turn on airplane mode, and hopefully that allows me to just get to a charger in time. So those are two automations. Maybe something to mention here is automations don't sync between devices. So this automation here is only going to be my iPad. If I want it on my iPhone, I have to do the same thing there. But the other ones, so the ones we made earlier, so for instance, the receipts and all those other things we made, they will sync across iCloud. So if you've got an iPhone and an iPad, then they'll be available on all of your devices. So if there's any questions, I think we'll spend some time on that. And then I also wanted to maybe show you one more resource, which is quite interesting to know about, which is you can actually download these little shortcuts from the internet. People are making them and you can go and download them, right? So if I go over to my Safari screen here, you can see there's two places to go. There's one called routinehub.co, right? And you can see there's a whole bunch of little things you can download. And there's also one called shortcutsgallery.com. And these are also ones that people have made, and you can go and download them. You know, just a word of caution here is you probably want to make sure whatever you're downloading is something that is going to be checked and from an official source, because you don't want to be downloading something that's going to do weird things, right? So these are good places to maybe start, but I do want to make sure that you are aware that you are going to have to be careful in terms of what these things are allowed to do. So with that being said, I think we've covered quite a few things, and I hope there's one or two things you picked up from this that you can start implementing, right? So either from the basics in the gallery, or maybe automation, or even if you want to really make your whole shortcut from start to finish, you can also start putting those together. All right, so let's see. I've got a couple of comments here in the chat. So Andre is saying, one thing I love about shortcuts is that you can quickly let someone join my home network by creating a QR code. Yeah, I think that's a great one, right? So in the gallery, if you go here, there is a QR. I think there should be one. Let's have a look. No results. I think it's in this one, but I think it's in the gallery. There is one that allows you to do that. So nice job in terms of reminding us on that. And let's quickly see if there's anything else that is popping up in the Q&A. So I think my goal was really to introduce you to this, to kind of show you the possibilities. And even from a basic point of view, there's some things that maybe that you can do already. But maybe if you want to go and spend a bit more time on this, you can do some really impressive little shortcuts that you can automate all kinds of things in your life, especially with those automations. So Lance is saying, can I trigger shortcuts and automations from my HomePod? So if you have an HomePod, because we know it's not available officially in South Africa, then quite right. If I go to automations, you'll see over here, you're going to have to set up a home hub, and you're going to have to essentially use either an Apple TV or a HomePod or an iPad if you have one as your home hub. And that'll allow you to also do things like, but these are more home automations. So maybe turning on a plug or something like that. If I go back, I just want to show you one more thing here. If I go back to these personal automations, maybe just have a look here, because there's some other amazing things. Let me quickly just refresh that. Shortcuts, if you go to automation, add a new one. You can do a whole bunch of stuff there in terms of when you arrive somewhere, when you leave somewhere, maybe when you connect to Wi-Fi, so there's a whole bunch of stuff there to explore, but definitely hoping you can find something that works for you. Let's see, Grant saying, any resources where can find apps that support Siri shortcuts, like a good PDF or a tool for SSH? I think what we'll do is, reach out to us on iStore Meets at istore.co.za, and we'll see if we can get back to you with any information. And a lot of you are saying, well, yes, maybe this is something you need to re-look or replay on YouTube. I think especially if you're new to this and you just want to go through those steps a little more slowly, then I suggest that is a good thing to do. So I hope that was great then in terms of what we've shared. I see there's a couple more questions. Someone's asking, how do I add Spotify in shortcuts? So I don't have the Spotify app. And again, many of these things are dependent on the developer. So if the developer didn't add Spotify into, let's say, didn't make available shortcuts through Spotify, then you might not see it there. So just like Waze has done that, it really depends on the developer. So Apple Music obviously being integrated into the system, it is right there. I'm not sure about Spotify. You might have to go and check that one out. Sean is asking, possible to create a shortcut automation by entering a new contact into my address book. So the automations are really what you see here. So if I go into that automation, all the things you see here is really what you have available. So it is, for instance, when you open an app. So maybe if you open up the contacts app, you can have something trigger, but you're gonna have to maybe just look at what's available here in terms of what is possible. So there we go. Andre's asking, when is South Africa getting the full Siri, right? So unfortunately, not something we know or can advise on. So I know we're waiting for Apple, I guess, to kind of do that. So Andre, we all hope it is maybe soon where we get some of those extra things. But for now, we are going to have to just wait on that. So let's see. So what else is there? How's that something that we can check if the developer actually integrates with the Shortcuts app? Anyone? A good question. I guess if you do a Google search, that might give you some indication, but I'll have to go and double check if there's actually a resource that gives you like all the information in one place. I'm not sure about that. That's something we might have to go and check out. All right. So let's see. I think that's just about it then for our session. It is 10 to 1. And I think we're going to start finishing up here. So I see Chris is saying you missed part of the presentation. Will you share your receipt shortcut, please? Yes. So if anyone wants to have that one that I've made, I can definitely share that, because it is possible to share these things between different people. Maybe again, same thing, just reach out to us at iStore Meets at istore.co.za, and we can send that to you, and you can definitely make use of that. So a lot of you saying, thanks. And it was nice to have you on a session. I hope there's something you can use from this in your own devices. And it was nice to have everyone here. If it was a little bit, too high end, I apologize, but hopefully everyone got something from the session. Really, from me, it's one more thing to say, which is thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next session. Cheerio, everybody.